Hey friends, welcome to the School of Hard Knocks with Darcie, a place where we become unstuck from trauma and grounded in our healing. I'm your host, Darcie, and I'm a proud multi-graduate of the School of Hard Knocks. Life has a way of teaching us lessons we never asked for, but here we take those lessons and turn them into healing, strength, and self-leadership. I'm so glad you're here. Let's dive in.
Just a quick reminder. This podcast shares personal stories and lived experiences. It's not therapy. It's not counseling or legal advice. If you need professional help, please reach out to a licensed provider.
Hey, School of Hard Knocks, class is in session. I am here with my In Blooming Rebuilt series, and I am being joined with Daniel Sterling as our guest today. Welcome, Dan.
Thank you.
So happy to have you here on the School of Hard Knocks.
Pleasure to be here.
I'm so glad. Well, let me introduce you guys to who Daniel is. So he grew up in the early years and in the Wild West of Aspen, Colorado, where risk became his go-to. So he had a range of jobs, some hard labor, others were actually downright dangerous. And that actually supported his early pursuit of alpine ski racing success. That sounds super cool. So while he skied fast enough to land him in the top 10 in the US, he actually recalls the fallout and delusionment of coming up short of being great. So what Dan actually did was he found a remarkable and singular mentor. And he says that with that, he discovered the sort of purpose and meaning that would reframe his entire world view. The result of that was Dan starting to put together a memoir of his life, a really candid book that he's working on getting published. And I'm so excited to see what he puts together. So, Dan, take us back. I'm really excited to hear about, first of all, what got you into this alpine ski racing? What was your life up to that point that got you? I think I'm going to start skiing.
So I was actually born in Pennsylvania, and I always tell the story of my mother laying in bed in high school with her younger brother and dreaming about moving west to build a ski lodge and start a writers community. And so she made that happen. She was a force. She actually went on a television game show in the late 50s called Tic Tac Toe and won 15 grand. And that was our seed money. And they came west to Colorado and looked around and found Aspen, fell in love, and pitched a sheep herder's tent by the Maroon Creek River that first summer that we started building our ski lodge called the Heatherbed, which is right across from Aspen Highlands. It's still there, beat to hell. It's all employee housing. But so we moved west when I was 3. So I have no memory of Pennsylvania, but I was on skis at 3.5 between my father's legs. And that was the beginning. So at 8 years old, I won my first ski race. And, that dose of chemicals did it for me. And I was chasing that high ever since.
Yeah.
So I will say that high became a substitute for the love in my home that had gone missing. So I became a doer and a pursuer and went out into the world and was determined to find accolades in the world. And it was not a pleasant journey because it was, a lot of achievement and realizing goals and finding the emptiness on the other side of all that. And I ended up moving to Southern California after a television news career as an outdoor reporter doing wild stories on skydiving and caving and ice climbing. It was a great job for 5 years. And I thought, well, I got to start. What I really want to do is write and direct feature films. So I moved to Southern California and wrote 5 screenplays and posed as my own agent. I'd shop these scripts, send them out to all these, these publication houses, and follow up with a phone call and say, I'm representing my client, Daniel Sterling. Did you receive his script? And do you have any thoughts? So I was not
That
shy.
is brilliant.
I was not shy. But at the end of those 5 screenplays, I sort of sat back on my haunches and came to the realization that I wrote and wrote and wrote and had really nothing to say. So at 39 years old, I sort of bottomed out. And that's when the mentor showed up, when the student's ready, the teacher appears, all that. It's amazing how all that works. I'm actually writing my second book and talking about the universe really looking out for me. So in many ways, I'm grateful. And I needed this sort of hard journey to seek and look and search for meaningful existence.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people get to this plateau in their life where they realize something has to give, something has to change. So 39 years old is when you started to feel like that was it. I mean, maybe I need to look at a different direction of what it is that I want to do. So, what did you do?
So, well, I bottomed out first emotionally, and then I was ready. And I was working with a girlfriend doing some writing and marketing, and she was editing a book for Lloyd, who had a men's group. And Lloyd took pity on me. He saw that I was sort of a mess, and he invited me to the men's group. And the first night in, he invited me to, he's like, here's our new member, and tell us a little bit about yourself. So I started talking about my struggles, and all of a sudden, I mean, I'd never been in a men's group, never been in therapy, never any of it. And ended up breaking down in embarrassment and tears in that group with these 5 strange men who I didn't know at all. And pretty much lost it. And I mean, I was just that much on the edge. So I kept going to the men's group, and I met this other gentleman in there who happened to be named Daniel. And one night he said, you should meet Glad. I was like, okay, who's that? She's like, she's amazing. She's conscious and smart. And I thought, conscious, what's that?
Yeah.
So he set it up, and we met, and the three of us sat down in a restaurant and talked for a while. And she said, tell me about your family. So I talked for 20 minutes, and I spun this rosy tale of my family, because I have an older brother who was an Olympic ski racer, and my mother was who she was, and I had a column in Ski Magazine and was accomplished, and my father was a smart, funny, no nonsense guy. And then I had my own story of super fast ski racing and screenplays and television news. And so I told my story, that everybody's got their story that they sort of recite by heart. And at the end of that, she looked at me, she said, well, that all sounds great. Why are you so miserable? And I was like, oh my God, she saw through me. And
Yeah.
I was like, after all that, that's your takeaway. So she could read energy, and she knew what I was going to say before I even said it. She was is so plugged in. So that was the beginning of,
Yeah. Well, tell me about when you say bottomed out, what does bottomed out mean to you? What did that
very,
look like for you?
very good question. So I will reiterate that after pursuing all these things that I thought were going to fulfill me, I went and got a broadcast journalism degree, graduated from college, interned at KOAT TV in Albuquerque, New Mexico, where I was going to school. And the news director saw something in me and hired me on as a overnight photographer shooting murders and fires. And so I was just sort of following an intuition. It was like, well, this is going to fulfill me. This is going to do it for me. This was going to, going 80 miles an hour on skis was going to do it for me. And then the screenwriting was again the final straw that did it. And so bottoming out was broke, uh, full of despair, having no understanding why it is that I was miserable, but knowing there had to be a better way to live this life and to find some sort of meaningful pursuit. Of course, I couldn't articulate any of it at the time. I was just struggling. That's all I knew. And so I was in psychic pain, is what I was. And I always have a theory that, if I don't follow what it is I'm supposed to be doing on this earth, then I'm going to be in psychic pain. And
Mhm.
that's what I was. So I don't know if that answers your question, but for me, that was bottoming out.
Yeah, when you were younger, I mean, what was your dream? Like, we all have dreams when we're kids. Was there something in particular that you wanted to be when you grew up?
Well, I wanted, like my brother, to be an Olympic ski racer.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
And then I, I really wanted to write and direct feature film. I mean, I love movies and stories and the humanity of it. But screenwriting was not my strength. And I struggled at it and took classes and read great screenplays and asked a lot of questions and, threw myself at the industry and tried to learn. That's just kind of who I am. I grind and work and learn. But when that cratered, then I was really at a loss because there was nothing else that I thought that I wanted to do that really energized me. So, it was just timing. And 40 is about when people sort of reach that plateau of this is it.
That is such an accurate statement, and I know that that is going to be so relatable to so many people. I'm 46, and I have a brother who he's just not good. But I have a sister under that, and she's 44, 43 or 44. And we often talk about that, like we kind of thought we would have been further in our lives than what we are at the age that we are, and picture that things would be differently. And you kind of feel like disappointed. You look back at some of the decisions for me that I made and I could have probably have done differently and maybe went for my goals and aspirations a little bit earlier. I grew up in a traumatic situation is my story. So I wasn't really taught the right way to do things and I had to spend a long time learning how to do it. But I wrote down because when you talk about your parents and you talk about your brother and all of these amazing things, I wrote down big shoes to fill. And I wonder if that's something that you ever kind of felt as like the youngest in the family. That's why I ask if you had ever thought about what you wanted to be when you grew up as a child, because you had such high performing examples. before you, if you ever felt that way, that you had big shoes to fill to keep up.
Uh, I did with the older brother, and
Hmm.
um, it just pissed me off that it came easy for him.
Yeah.
Uh, and he's 5'9", I'm 6'1", so his stature helped him. He was, he had very strong in the lower legs, so he was perfectly suited for ski racing. And his center of balance was always good. I was always out of balance
Mm-hmm.
in more ways than one, right? In life
Hmm.
on skis and struggling to stay in balance on skis. So that's why I became a downhiller, the fast event where I could sort of hang on and recover and still keep going fast. But the part of the story that I haven't told is that the brother was tough on me and
Hmm.
tyrannical in many ways. And, we didn't have TV really growing up until I was like 10 years old. So we made our own fun in the wilds of Colorado, Aspen, Colorado. So, I was running around in the woods with guns and swimming in the rivers and the ponds and riding horses. But he was, there was no discipline, and he got away with murder and screwed with me for all of my young life until I finally was able at 16 to fight back against him. And my parents were just neglectful in this regard. I mean, I love them for what they did give me, but it was just not in them to discipline him and protect me. So I grew up, an angry kid with an edge and critical of others, of myself. So you asked me about, I think I lost the train of thought.
Big shoes to fill.
Big shoes to fill, yeah. His were. And
Hmm.
so, yeah, it just, he had free ride to anywhere he wanted, could have gone. I mean, Harvard offered him a full athletic scholarship, and he was very smart. So, yeah, he lorded over me, and I looked up to him, and then he would screw with me. And I was like, I don't understand this. I mean, I love you, you're my brother, and yet you're tormenting me. Why is that?
Hmm.
So, I had a love-hate relationship with him.
Well, full disclosure with you is that I'm an NLP practitioner. And I work with like neuro linguistic programming. And I could tell just in this little bit of our conversation that that was the vibe that you had. And I mean, just by other things too, these high achieving, when you're sometimes when we're doing things, we don't understand how amazing that they really are until somebody else hears it, right? So when you're telling me this stuff, I'm like, dude, you're going 80 miles per hour on skis. Like, what? That sounds wild to me. And then you were taking pictures, like as a photographer, with these like big things. That sounds incredible to me. Or, you're screenwriting and writing things, and you're over here going, well, failed at that. Well, failed at that. Well, failed at that. And I'm over here like, dude, that's awesome. Like, there are so many people that would aspire to do the things that you're doing, but we're so hard on ourselves, especially when you feel like you have big shoes to fill and you're in this internal competition. You're not saying it out loud, like I'm trying to compete with anybody. I was never in a competition with anybody, but the first boss that I had that showed me fatherly attention, I would have worn a dunce hat at work if he would have told me it would have made the numbers better on paper. It was that desire to be accepted. So I think the things you're telling me sounds like that's a lot of really awesome stuff.
Thank you. I acknowledge that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I I worked at it, and you bring up such an important point to have an adult take an interest in us and show us a little care and concern and support is everything.
Mhm.
And I was always looking for that. And I'm actually writing my second book about a lot about the men. What I jokingly call it the man book, but it's the men in that Aspen Valley growing up. We had some horrendously sadistic men, angry teachers that did terrible things to the kids, and without any ramifications, they all would have been in jail today. But um, I, in all my years in that Aspen school system, I had, maybe one or two teachers that made it interesting, but never one that took an interest in me. Um, I was a quiet, withdrawn kid in some ways because I had to be. The brother required that of me. But you bring up a very important point about that. It takes that one adult that can make every difference in the world.
Absolutely. Well, it sounds like you kind of found your one adult when you met your mentor.
That's the truth.
And that's when big changes started to happen.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
tell me about it.
yeah, she saw a lot of herself in me because she was a great athlete and tough, smart. Um, and I took to this work that we did. This was in Newport Beach in California, where I met her. So there was 7 of us in this group that uh, did what we called self-study. And it's really pretty simple. It's about, setting my ego aside, my defiance, my defenses, and learning how to think and be communicative and supportive and loving. So that all sounds great on the surface, right? But to be in a group where everybody was very aware and plugged into the energy of the room, anybody that said some smart ass thing that, trying to be funny, which was one of my specialties, everything would stop and we would handle the business. And she would say, what was that about? Let's talk about that. So all of a sudden, I'm trying to be funny, and then I got 6 people looking at me and telling me that I've overstepped. And I'm like, oh my God. You talk about scrutiny, but it was the best thing that could have happened to me because I fought him and I fought him for a couple of years. I was like, no, you're wrong. I was just, it was just play, I didn't mean anything. And they wouldn't let it go. I mean, we would not move on until we handle business. Sometimes, we would call getting into the other side where we finally go, okay, I hear what you're telling me. I got 6 people telling me the same thing. I don't believe what you're telling me, but I'm going to trust that you guys care about me enough to say that what you're telling me is true. And so it took me a long time to start to own this for myself and realize that in the moment I'd overstepped. I went, oh, there it is. And before they could even start, I would say, I take that back. I'm sorry. I was being a smartass and I'm going to be careful. Here's what I'm going to do differently next time. So that was the beginning of my learning experience. I don't know if that all makes sense, but it's tricky to articulate these, the inner workings of the psyche, the ego, defenses, defiance, and being stuck in my story because I have a certain victim mentality that I've always
Mhm.
carried with me since I was a kid.
Mhm.
And I had to look at that as well. I was like feeling sorry for myself a lot. And she's like, that is not going to serve you in this life.
I mean, that's a really big thing too. So taking accountability, right? For
Everything.
ourselves and for our actions, that's a huge step in growth. And a lot of people don't want to do it because taking accountability is a humbling thing. I mean,
Yes.
even if we internally know we did something, said something, partook in something we shouldn't have done, we almost just want to stick it down and just be like, okay, well, let's just walk past it and forget that it didn't happen. But, there's no failure in this life unless if you don't take a lesson. So when we start taking accountability, we start learning from other people, from ourselves, how to do things better, how to, produce things better. I mean, it's just a whole entire thing that runs so congruently together with getting stuck in healing, or I call it grounded in healing, and then there was something else that you said right after that that I should have written down, and that's why I take notes. Because it was super relatable to me. It was the taking accountability, and then something will probably circle back. So, this is how your journey started, and it's inside of this group with people, and now you're being taught different things and learning different things about yourself and being able to step outside of this box, maybe that you've kind of held yourself in for safety reasons. Oh, victim mentality. That's what
Yes.
you said
Yes.
about, and that's a big thing for people because, we stay in victim mentality because we're either too afraid of healing or what could possibly happen with the healed version of us. What does that even look like to even be healed? Or there's secondary gain to it. Some people stay stuck in this victim mentality because there's a secondary gain to it. Like people are going to take it easier on me if they find out my childhood was this way. People will allow me to say things like that or let certain things slide. And it that's why I'm saying when I bring people on this podcast, it makes me so proud to meet people that have walked through certain things in their life and get grounded in their healing, because it's not an easy thing to do. I mean, we can talk about the difference between men and women doing it. Women getting stuck in healing is scary because we have to take that superwoman cape off. We can do everything. We don't need help with anything. We can do it all. That is such bullshit. Nobody needs to be wearing a superwoman cape. Fold it up and put it away. And then you have men that are taught to be strong and we don't cry and we just push through. And that's bullshit too. We are human beings. We are not robots. We are not designed to operate like that. So it is such a shame that that's impacted people of all different ages. I mean, all different generations of people that I interview on here, and it's all the similar thing. I had to be like that because judgment, because of fear of what people would think, or I was afraid of who I would be would change. So, I mean, I know because I've had to go through it and I've had to help people walk through it. This walk it's a hard walk, but when you're grounded in that healing, there's a level of peace and comfort that I didn't even realize was even obtainable in this life. Is that something that you experience?
Amen. Absolutely. So if there's any place I would start, it's with personal accountability. So I hear what you're saying, and I am such a believer in it. And I think there would be such a better world if we, you know, even, bumping into people in public and acknowledging that, sorry, missed the step, everything okay, these niceties go a long way to making for a better world. But I have to go inward first. It's funny you're wearing this cross. One of the first things that Vlad taught me is that about the cross, because I was never, I didn't grow up religious, so didn't have meaning for me. But until she explained it to me, she said, like the cross, you have to go in first before you can go out. It's like I go in first and go, okay, what's happening in this moment and what is my responsibility? Have I overstepped my bounds? Have I said something that is hurtful, whatever it may be, the variable doesn't matter, but I have to take ownership of it first. Assess anyway, is it mine or is it someone else's? And when I can grab hold of that early and say, I think I just said something that may have been hurtful. What's your sense of it? So I can grab it and be proactive and clean it up. And then, there's no unfinished business, which is the death of a lot of relationships,
Mm-hmm.
marriages, friendships, where all this unfinished business piles up and then it's such a mountain that we can't clean it up. So that was one of the core tenets of our group, was to address it in the moment and clean it up. And if it had to carry over into the next week, because we met every Monday, so be it. But we'd always start the next week saying, picking right up, back up where we left off until we cleaned it up. So it's a powerful thing. And I found it one of the most liberating experiences of my life, because I was so defended. Because if I was vulnerable with my older brother, man, he would never let me forget it. And so I withdrew and never shared anything, risky, because it was dangerous. And so I had to refashion all of that within me. And it was the greatest thing that ever happened to me.
Yeah, there's a lot of courage in, cleaning up our messes. And it is such a really freeing feeling. I mean, when you start to love yourself, when you start to love all of the parts that come along with yourself, you don't want to hurt other people, but you don't want other people to hurt you. So my first podcast episode was actually called From Doormat to Done, because I had been a doormat my whole entire life. I was an enabler until the age of 39. Thought that I could love people better. Thought that, love them out of their addiction, love them out of whatever they're going through. That's what I did for my whole entire life, until somebody pointed out to me that the reason why they were doing what they're doing is because they knew I wouldn't do anything about it. And I was like, oh, that sounds a hell of a lot like enabling. And I think that that's what I've been doing this whole entire time. So I had to really work on that. So now, if I overstep, which I have gotten so good at being grounded in my healing, that I really process through what's in my head before I actually say it, instead of just saying it. Because then I'll think, geez, if I say that, that's probably going to offend her, even if I feel that way. A lot of times with my daughter, I don't like the relationship that she's in. I know when I say something about it, it's going to piss her off. The conversation's over. Now we're just mad. And what are we going to do? So I really mind, when she says something, I'll be like, oh, you want to say that, but probably don't. At the same token, when somebody says something offensive to me now, I don't just brush it under the rug, because I love myself. So, hey, listen, that sounded really offensive. I'm not even sure if you meant it like that, but I'm telling you that's how I took it. So let's talk about that for a second. I
Good for
actually
you.
had to leave a friendship in 2025 because she wasn't coming along on my healing journey that I'm on.
No.
And recently she had messaged me, and my message back to her was in such a healed Darcie voice, Dan, that she told me that she thought that I used Chat GPT to construct it. I
Well,
said,
that's a compliment, right?
that's what I told her. I said, well, I am so honored that you think that I use an AI bot to construct this message, but I think you're failing to realize how healed that I've gotten in the last 5 months since we haven't talked to each other. So it does take courageousness to, hey, I think I just said something or maybe did something that's offensive. But the same token, love yourself enough where you could do the same if somebody else does it to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm a big believer in being my own advocate. And I've lost enough childhood friendships that it pains me, but I understand. Um, they they really don't want much to do with who I am today.
Mhm.
Um, Even though I'm a much more caring, kind, engaged friend, I have so much more bandwidth for the people in my life because of who I am today. So I don't know. I keep moving forward.
Yeah, that's really all you can do. Well, tell me what is going on with your current life today? You've gone through all of these different steps in your life. So tell me how does Dan live now?
That is a full question, Darcie. So I just finished writing the memoir. I The universe was very kind to me. I found an incredible writing coach. So I'm working with her on the next book too. Laura is her name. She's the best. Shout out. So I finished the memoir and she also finished hers. And so we're sort of on this journey together about what to do next with the book. And so in the world of publishing today, it's sort of two worlds, self-publishing or traditional publishing. Self-publishing is tricky because a lot of books, disappear down the rabbit hole. It's tough to get on Amazon and generate sales. So she and I decided to go the traditional route. And so we did a lot of learning about how to approach literary agents for representation because they're the ones who have the relationships with the publishers. So this is how it works, as I've learned. So I have gone through, this is kind of who I am. I've gone through 4 full lists of thousands of literary agents online, looking for those who are actively seeking memoir from unknown writers. And so I winnowed that down and I have sent out to these agents exactly what they're looking for, be it a book proposal or 5 pages of the manuscript or a bio or an overview or a summary of the chat, whatever they're looking for. I've given it to them exactly. So I grinded through that and I've sent out what's called querying 152 of these agents. And
Wow.
yeah, so I was cross-eyed after a couple of weeks of doing that because for some reason, they use this very faint colored font on there. They think it's artsy, but I'm like, what does that say? So I've done that, and I'm slowly hearing back from them. They're saying, "Yeah, we're passing. It's not for us," and I get it. But all I need is one, Darcie.
That's right. That's right.
I'm looking for that one that's going to say, I believe in what you're doing, and this has merit, and it needs a little work. Let's talk about that, and I'd like to represent you. Sweet. Let's go.
Yes.
So that's done, and so now I'm starting to write the second book, and this right here. I told you, Darcie, at the beginning, this is my first guest podcast. Uh,
Yeah.
so I'm honored that right out of the gate, and I'd love to maybe at some point come back with an update
Yes.
for you.
I would love it. I would love it. I know it's going to be such a great update too. I'm so excited.
So, in the world we live today, it's all about social media presence. So I've got, a website built and I'm going to start approaching all these podcasts to be a guest. It's an amazing thing, this podcasting, because people can find you very quickly. And
Yes.
all of a sudden, I mean, you hear these stories about some woman who publishes her journey with this puppy that she gets and who grows into this dog, and she's got 1 million followers.
Mhm.
So anything is possible in this realm. And that's my hope because that's what publishers want. They really like to see authors with, 300,000 followers because then they can extrapolate and go, okay, 42,513 of those will buy your book, whatever it may be. They've got people that sit in little cubicles and figure all this out.
Yeah.
So I'm interested in seeing where this book takes me and where this podcasting takes me because I am so energized by this work that I do, and I just believe in it. And ultimately, Darcie, what I am doing is I am paying forward what was freely given to me. And if I can help one person, I will have achieved what I set out to do.
I love it. I love that. That's exactly what we should be doing, and that's the way we should be looking at it. I mean, I'm small potatoes in the podcasting world, I feel. I mean, my chat GPT tells me different when I send her analytics. I've only been doing this since July of last year. We just
Wow,
monetized last weekend.
good for you.
That's kind of crazy, like hundreds of people that are coming. I did 60 interviews last month for the
Good for you.
podcast. So it's been this really great thing, but I call it shooting my shot. And I will always forever shoot my shot with every opportunity, because if you don't ask, the answer is always no.
That's right.
So I am a two-time best-selling author in an anthology book that I had done with the Empower Her series. So I did Empower Her Volume 1 and Empower Her, the Powerhouse Edition. And it's collaboratively done with 24 other women. Well, the woman who runs the publishing company lives in Alaska, or in Australia, Queenie Publishing, and her name is Elsa Morgan. And I asked her a couple weeks back, I know you're global and you're this big person, but would you consider being on my podcast? And she said, I love you and I love your story, and I'll absolutely do it. So her episode is going to launch, I think, next week. Well, then she had messaged and said, all of the best selling authors, I'm going to be coming back to the States, to Chicago. You all have a general admission ticket to when I do my speaking engagement, and you'll all be called up on stage and everybody will give you a round of applause. And I thought, wow, that's going to be a really great time. But I am all of a sudden miss shoot your shot. So I said to my husband, babe, I think I'm going to ask her if I could speak on stage. Because again, if you don't ask, the answer is always no. So I was shaken and I messaged her. And my husband and I, we've been reading the Bible for 230 some days. We're doing a Read the Bible in a Year challenge. We're reading it, and I'm trying not to be distracted because I'm in the Word. And I'm like, just pay attention, Darcie, to what you're reading. And then we were done reading, and I saw she had left a message. So I prayed over it and said, she says, no, I'm not going to be disappointed, because I understand it. She's a global person who runs a multi-million dollar. Who am I? I live in a village in Wisconsin, so, and I don't know if she does things like that. Her message came back. I don't typically do things like that, but I am making the plan out, and I will find a spot to put you in, because I'm about building other women. And I thought, see,
There you go.
this is why you may have sent it out to 152 some people. Maybe it's 155 that finally says, whatever your statistic is, whatever it is for you to power through and keep going. Because everybody, like you said, social media is a big thing out here. Everybody's looking for something. So they have to weed through so many people. But somebody's looking for Daniel Sterling, I can tell you that. Someone's waiting for your manuscript to pop up for them to be like, this is the one that I've been waiting for. So you keep going, because someone's going to pick it up and it's going to be fantastic. I already know it.
You're speaking my language, and thank you. I love it. I love your energy, and good for you.
Thanks.
There's something that people talk about imposter syndrome, and I run a men's group out of my house here in Denver, and I was talking. We had our meeting last night. It's just a few of us. I'm trying to grow it, but I think it's kind of taking its own path. But I talked to him about what I'm doing, and was telling him I could very easily lapse into imposter syndrome, but for whatever reason, I don't go there. I just
Mhm.
have such faith in what I'm doing. And, you know, um, the universe has been very kind to me in a lot of ways. I'd like the universe to bring me a fine looking, smart, zesty woman into my life, but so I've made a space for that.
Shout out at School of Hard Knocks.
Yeah, I'm waiting for her to come along. and surprise me with an insight and a piece of humor. I go, there you are.
There you go.
So yeah, I mean, there's so much to be said for perseverance. I mean, it's everything. And
Mhm.
that's what you do, and that's what I do. We just grind and work and uh, put put the intent, as trite as that may sound, I believe in it. Put the intent out there. I see it in you and I know it in me.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the way it has to be. And you know what? I've actually gotten I have found that I used to work in corporate America for a very long time. And it always sounds so braggy, but it is what it was. I was the business development manager for the number one independent car dealership in the state of Wisconsin.
There you
That was the
go.
fourth highest person in this man's company. And this man turned out to be a jerk, and the whole thing was a shit show, and they were ripping people off and doing things they shouldn't have been doing. And that's not who I am as a person. So I have now been an entrepreneur for 10 years. And when I first started in this social networking business, it wasn't something I had 250 friends on social media. And if you didn't know me, we didn't go to church, shake hands, break bread together. You don't know anything about my life. And I was just very private. Now I walked into church this last week and had one of the brothers that I go to church with say, "Did you clear out any of your friends list because you're maxed out and I still haven't been able to send a request over?" I said, "Well, this is, tenacity is showing up, but in the course of the last 6 years of my life, I had something very traumatic happen that caused me to reevaluate, and I was a very all day long, work all day, I'll do whatever it takes, to I'm still going to do whatever it takes, but I'm going to give myself grace. And I'm going to give myself time and I'm going to enjoy the journey to the top of the mountain, because so many of us are like power through, don't even look around. Man, if you're looking around at some of this stuff in this world while you're walking through this journey, there's so much beauty in the whole entire journey up this mountain. And then what's going to happen when we get to the top of it? We'll probably enjoy the view for a little bit and be like, that tree is way up there. And now I'm going to climb the tree because we can never just have enough of the things. So I know eventually I'm going to get to the place that I hope that God's going to bring me to. But I know until then, I'm going to look around. I'm going to enjoy every single view from every single direction and every single thing that I see in the meantime, because that's where I think the real core of my journey is. It's not, oh, she's up there. People don't want to know what's up there. They want to know, what did it look like to get there? What did you have to do to get there? And I wish more people understood, look around a little bit and enjoy some of your life because it's going to come. It's gonna come for you. It's always going to. The only way you won't is if you give up or you don't get started. That's what I always tell people. But I'm done with the sleepless nights and the super early mornings and the, eating while I'm on my phone trying to figure life out when my husband's like, "Hi, do you realize I'm still here?" I had to slow down and be okay with that. And that's when things actually really started to work in my favor. I think I was speeding past signs.
Absolutely. Yeah, I being as goal oriented as I was, I mean, what you're telling me is resonates with me absolutely. It was always next, next, so um, yeah, there is. I find great joy in these seemingly small things. Like I ski with a friend of mine, the Ben, who I ski raced with when we were kids, and we're competitors and not really good friends because I was envious of him. And so now we're just the best friends, and we drive and meet at Vale or Beaver Creek, and I'm just so happy riding the chairlift with him on a beautiful sunny day, watching the scenery go by, and I treasure those moments. And in the middle of writing this first book last summer, I said, I gotta let Laura know. I said, so I reached out to her and in an email, I said, I gotta tell you that writing this book with you has been one of the great joys of my life because it really was. It was a struggle figuring out how to structure a book, which is a whole what they call the doing the math of writing a book because it's like math. learning how to write a scene and then a transition and flashbacks and present day timelines. I was like, oh my God, my head was swimming until I finally got it. And then I was like, okay, there it is. And then I could, put it all together. And then the creative part of it began to flow into it. And that's when it really became joyful. And I was like, I'm getting this. And then we created this very structurally sound book that I'm very proud of. And just writing it with her was really fun because she was very supportive and celebratory of me in that process and encouraging. And it was a great experience.
I love that so much. Well, I'm super excited for you. I can't wait for you to find the right person, the right publisher to help you with all of this. This whole conversation to me, I think is going to help a lot of different people. It's going to resonate with a lot of people that have gone through similar things as you. I mean, you've been really open and really candid, and I really appreciate it. And I really appreciate you sitting here and chatting with me.
It's been a pleasure, Darcie, and thank you for having me on. And I so enjoyed my time with you.
I'm so glad. Well, School of Hard Knocks, you know what to do. When you are done listening to this episode, go to www.daniel-sterling.com. Make sure that you're doing all of the things, share, like, follow, do anything that you find him on, because there is more than enough room at the top of this mountain for everybody. And like I always say, healing is possible when you are walking with the Lord. I'll see you guys in the next episode.
I'd like to thank you for sharing your time with me today. And I'm so proud of you for stepping into your healing journey. Please share this with every single person that you know. I'm here to make the biggest impact possible, and I can only do that with you by my side. I hope you hit that follow button and you save me to your library so you never miss an episode. We just took another break out of your wall, and remember, with God, healing is always possible. I look forward to seeing you on the next episode.